Now is retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Darin Gaub. He's an international military strategist and co-founder of Restore Liberty. First question is the obvious one. Does that strategy shift surprise you at all?
Hey, Kevin, thanks for having me on it. And no, that strategy shift doesn't surprise me at all, as they've bogged down really just north of Kyiv in their ability to take the national capital of Ukraine relatively easily is no longer a reality. They may be turning back to a different idea of saying what we really want to be able to do is try to occupy the Donbas and those two specific regions where the separatists and the more pro-Russian regions are, and maybe start over a little bit from there.
What do you make of the idea that Russian troops are suffering from low morale?
That would not surprise me. We've heard plenty of, I guess you could say, Soviet or former Russian troops talk about how they didn't know that they were going into Ukraine and actually conducting offensive operations against the Ukrainian people. This was a surprise to them. They thought they were going on training, and now that we're combining that with a month of combat to where they're not seeing the victory that they thought they might after it started, it's really no surprise at all that morale would go down.
Is it your sense that anything will change with respect to the western part of the country? It does appear, at least at this point, to be somewhat safer with the exception of the aerial assault.
I would think it would change somewhat if the logistics part of it gets fixed for the Russian forces. They had a hard time supplying themselves in garrison back in their own country, so to conduct complex offensive operations in the northern, southern, and eastern end of a country the size of Texas is no easy task. To make that smaller is not a surprise either.
Let me ask you one other question about the strategy. From what I can tell, yes, they are doing much of their destruction by way of air. Is that to suggest that because they're facing so much more resistance on the ground, that's a safer, more productive way for them to sort of gain control of some of the pockets that they're after?
Most certainly. And when you start dealing with urban combat, which is the most difficult type of combat you can imagine, you're either going to have to go into the cities and clear it room by room and street by street, which adds days and weeks and large numbers of casualties. Or if you're someone like Putin who's willing to use your artillery and air forces and the different assets that you have to level cities in lieu of doing that, I could certainly see him continuing that process. And Mariupol is right now a pretty good example.